The London Marathon is the most popular marathon on the planet. Since its creation in 1981, over 1 million people have ran this iconic event. Last year, in 2023, I was one of those lucky individuals. However, due to the popularity of the event, it is estimated over 400,000 people apply for a place each year, despite there being only around 50,000 places available for runners. So, just how do you go about getting a place at the London Marathon? Well, the good news is there are a lot of options available to you. In this video, I'm going to talk you through them all, so stay tuned. Alright guys, welcome back to another video. Shock, I'm gobbing off about the marathon again. Get used to that if you don't like it. So just to cover some basic housekeeping before we get into the actual options themselves, I've ordered these in terms of accessibility for normal people. So this isn't necessarily aimed at elite runners, because if you're an elite runner, you probably already know how to get a place, or you've probably already ran the London Marathon before anyway. So this is aimed at kind of novice runners who basically want to raise a bit of money for charity or just take on a bit of a challenge. So without further ado, let's get into it. Coming in at number one is the ballot, or the infamous ballot. So this is literally a lucky dip lottery. The ballot is open for a certain amount of time, normally a few weeks after the previous year's marathon. You literally enter it online, and then a few months down the line they draw out random names from a hat, and if you're one of the lucky people, then you get a place. You pay the £69 entrance fee, and then that's you in. You can raise money if you want. If not, you don't have to. You can just run effectively for your own ego if you're that way inclined. So as I said at the top of the video, about 400,000 people apply every year for the London Marathon. A lot of these people will be entering the ballot because that is the kind of main way to get into the marathon. And unfortunately, there are only 17,000 ballot places itself. So if you do the math, chances are you're not going to get a ballot place. Having said this, it's definitely worth entering, because as I go through the next options, this is probably the least effort on your part to get a place. So for what it's worth, you know, the 5 seconds it takes to apply, you may as well enter. Okay then, so coming at number two, we have charity places. And again, there's about 17,000 places available through charities. So it's pretty even with the ballot, but this is going to take slightly more effort. If you were unsuccessful in getting a ballot place, this is probably your next best option, and this is how I got my place in the 2023 London Marathon. So basically what happens is, once the ballot closes, charities then buy up places. So the bigger the charity, the more places they'll probably buy, and then as soon as they've been allocated those places, it's at their discretion who they can get to run and raise money for them. So the process itself, as I learned, is a bit of an art form. You need to be quite clever in how you go about it. I would compare it a bit to applying for jobs, in the sense that you have to apply to individual charities and effectively write them a cover letter / job application outlining why you're going to be a suitable fundraiser for them, your personal connection to the cause. You basically have to write a sob story, unfortunately. That's the way the world goes. What you want to do is make it as detailed and specific as possible to their cause. You don't want to fall foul of writing a generic application and then send it off to every charity that's bought places at the marathon, because chances are they're going to see through that and see what you've been trying to do. So in terms of key tips for landing a charity place, I would sit down and pick out 4 or 5 charities that you're really passionate about, quote unquote, and then I would write out an individual application for each one, highlighting why you're passionate about that cause, any personal links you have to it. So if you've got any family members that have potentially suffered from that particular illness or that disease, and also why you want to run the marathon. Again, this is an exercise in sales, so if you're not comfortable with bigging yourself up a lot of the time, a bit like me and most British people, then you're going to have to swallow your pride and just crack on with it. And the final thing I will say about charity places is that they do set a minimum fundraising target. So most of the time for the big charities, like I ran for Mind, the mental health charity, they set a minimum fundraising target of £2,000. Now that might seem like a lot to raise, but you'd be surprised, A, by how many people get behind you, and B, it isn't the end of the world if you don't hit that target. It's not a case of if you don't fundraise £2,000, they will ask you to cough up the difference. They just set that as a target to push you effectively to raise as much money as you can. But as I said, if you don't raise that, they're not going to chase you up for the difference. So coming in at number 3, we have running club places. So if you've been unsuccessful in the ballot and you haven't got a charity place, you can always join a local running club. Now they have to be British Athletic affiliated running clubs, so effectively they have to be legit. You can't just start your own. Unfortunately, there's only about 1,000 places in total that go to basically every running club in the country, so the odds are going to be against you, and it's up to the individual running clubs how they allocate those places. Now, I appreciate this isn't realistic for a lot of people that just want to run the London Marathon, but I thought I'd run you through the option anyway, and if we go through the rest of the list, you'll probably come to realise that it's more realistic than the following ones to come. Coming in at number 4 then, we have the good for age places. Now, as the name suggests, these places are given to runners who run good marathon times relative to their age category. So there are about 6,000 places awarded to these runners, and the qualification period, I think, was between October 2022 and September 2023. So basically you have to run a qualifying time in that period at a race that is effectively certified by British Athletics or something. I don't know the specific details because this definitely didn't apply to me when I was applying for my marathon, but if you want more information, it's all detailed on the official London Marathon website, so check that out. Coming in at number 5 then, we have something that's even more ludicrous, certainly didn't apply to me. This is championship qualification. So this is for UK runners only, and it effectively means you have to qualify with a certain time, again, at a certified race during a certain period. I'm not sure on the specific details, but they are available on the London Marathon website. I will put up the actual qualifying times that you need to beat on screen now, if you're interested. Now, I must stress that if you do meet these qualifying times, you automatically get a place at the marathon. So if you are a good runner, it's probably worth having a crack at this. If you do run a qualifying time and you get allocated a place through this means, the only caveat is you have to then run the marathon in the vest of your running club. Again, in the grand scheme of things, this probably isn't an issue because if you're used to running marathons, you probably run them in your club vest anyway. However, there is a proud tradition of fancy dress at the London Marathon. So if you're planning to get a place through these means as more of an amateur runner, then I wouldn't get your hopes up for running in fancy dress. Coming in at number 6 then, we're getting really ludicrous now. These are elite places. Now, the chances are if you qualify through this means, you won't be watching this video, A, because you'll be a professional athlete, and B, your agent will have already sorted your London Marathon place for you. Now, if you've watched the London Marathon on TV, these are the athletes that you see at the very start of the marathon, the ones that have motorbikes with cameras tracking them all the way around the course. Coming in at number 7 then, this is very left field. These are kind of celebrity influencer places, so obviously the marathon will want notable people to run it in order to raise publicity and awareness for the race. Equally thrown in with that are sponsorship places, so look out for companies like Lucozade, Buxton and New Balance running competitions that are offering places to winners. Again, the chances of you securing a place through these means pretty slim. You either have to rise to notoriety before the London Marathon next year or enter every competition under the sun and hope you're lucky enough to get a place. Whilst I'm not suggesting that everyone goes on Love Island to try and become an influencer before the next marathon, I would keep your eye out for competition places because I know that this is a way some people get into the marathon. But again, I will reiterate, if you are an amateur runner and you're just looking to bag a spot, I would either go via the ballot or the charity places. Last but not least, coming in at number 8 then, we have place deferrals. This isn't a way to get into the marathon as such, but this is just an option that you have once you do get a place. This effectively means that you can postpone your run until the following year's marathon if you pick up an injury or a clash of dates, so to speak. Now, this is a good option to have up your sleeve because you can normally do this up to a day before the race. So if you thrash yourself on a training run a few weeks before the event and pick up an injury, then don't fret because you can just defer your place to the next year. Now, I will stress that whilst you can defer your place, you can't defer your entry fee. So if you do defer your place, you have to pay next year's entry fee, and the entry fee that you paid for this year is effectively cancelled. So there you have it then. That was a whistle-stop tour of the different routes you have available to securing a London Marathon place. Now again, I'm not an expert in this field, I've only run one marathon, so if you are aware of any other routes into the marathon, comment down below because I'll be interested to hear them. Now I have entered the ballot for the 2024 London Marathon next year. They haven't been announced yet, but I will keep you all updated as to whether I get a place. If I don't get a place through the ballot, I'm not sure whether I'm going to try and secure a charity place, because having gone through the pain of last year, I'm not sure whether it's worth it. However, that is a wrap for this video, so all the usual gubbins, remember to comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you soon.